Hey guys, it's Jen from DizzyQuilter.com. I'm here to get started on the Color Catcher Quilt Along. This is a photo of the quilt we're going to be working on. The actual quilt's still in my car after having it away for the weekend. You can see it forms a really nice color gradation. The colors that you get are going to depend on what's in your scrap stash. If you want to sew along, you can get the pattern on my Etsy shop. On Etsy, I think if you search for Dizzy Quilter, the Dizzy Quilter, it pops up. This is the first page of the PDF. Yours might look different. I think this is my rough draft that I found printed in my desk, so I'm just using this. But it's a PDF, and it's not a lot of diagrams because this is before I learned how to do diagrams. This was a huge task for me. And the block diagram is pretty simple. We're sewing two rectangles together to form a square. The pattern has information on tools, fabric amounts, and then I have a couple of different size options for layouts. It looks like I have a crib, throw, and twin, and it tells you how many pieces you're going to need. I'm going to be making one. I'm just going to cut as many rectangles as I can for my scrap bin and see what I get. I'm happy to have my quilts be born that way rather than follow a pattern. I don't like following patterns, even ones I've written. All right, so first of all, the first thing we're going to need is a plan. And you can decide if you have an AccuQuilt system. This is the die I'm going to be using. It's number 8 from the 8-inch cubes. It cuts rectangles. It's 55715 is the SKU number. You can see the dies. This is how I like to cut this because it's the same shape over and over and over. If you don't have an AccuQuilt system, don't worry, you don't need one. I have one and I like to use it as much as possible. You can use any ruler. We're going to cut out squares. You can figure out, you can make any square you want and do the math, or you can look at my pattern and find the secret number. But you can just use a ruler to cut them out. You can cut them one at a time. You can strip cut, whatever you want. So in my stash, in general, when I'm working, I throw all the, taking off my slippers. I throw all the scraps into a bucket and then I sort them out by color later. And then I have all of these buckets. And I think I don't know how many I have, but I have definitely red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And I sort the fabrics in there. And I got a hair in my mouth. I have a little dog and her hair's everywhere. And I sort the colors quickly to see what bin they go into, and like, doesn't always make sense, and it doesn't really matter. So this one's red. You can see there's a lot of yellow. It's possible, I've got more than one ruler over here. It's possible that when I cut this piece out, that I will have more yellow than red. Then it can go in the yellow pile. So you can kind of fuss around if you have prints like that. And so where I might want to just use 1 or 2 pieces of any one fabric, if I have a fabric like this, I might cut multiples because I can use it for more different colors and have nice areas where, let's see if I can find one. Like so in here, so this is the blues. You can see there's lights and darks, kind of mixy. It's not really perfectly sorted. This quilt's not about perfection. But if I have something that had a little bit of blue and purple, I'd probably put it on this side, and then blue and green, I'd put it more on this side so that the colors mush a little bit more and create more of a kind of a watercolor effect. So I have all those. What I'm actually working from this time, I don't know, I have this ginormous bin. These are my scraps from when I was an Island Boutique ambassador. Now, when I was working for them, I did my project every month, and every month it generated scraps. And I tried to keep them all in one place. I have made many quilts and projects out of this bin, and I am determined that before 2023 is over, this bin's going to be empty. And whether that means I make quilts or I gather up the scraps that are not ridiculously small and give them away, that may be, or sell them in my Etsy shop. They keep telling me to sell my scraps. I may do that just to get rid of them all, because I love boutiques and I've loved working with the Island Boutiques, but I am done, baby. I'm ready to move on to another substrate. So I spent this weekend at a quilting retreat with Terry from Purple Moose Designs. It was wonderful. If you have the opportunity to attend one of her retreats, to be honest, I was a little worried. it was a Quilt Pro retreat, but we had some hobby quilters too, and she did a great job keeping everybody engaged and entertained. I was a little worried. I didn't know that I would get a lot out of it because, you know, I know everything and I'm so powerful. Um, I had the best time of my life. I can't wait for next year. So if you have an opportunity to go. Please wait till I finish registering before you take all the seats. So what I did was I spent a lot of time sorting through this scrap bin, and what I would do is really easy. I would pull out a scrap. I would hold it up to my die, make sure it will cover the blades. Perfect. This piece is big enough to get one of the rectangles. I would set it into the big enough pile. I would grab another scrap. This piece, why did I keep this? Not big enough. Goes into the not big enough pile, not the trash pile, because, you know, I'm not crazy. This is fabric. I can use that. Or send it to somebody else. So I would do the same thing over and over with all the scraps. And I looked to see what was in here. A lot of these are jelly roll scraps. So not to give away too much math, but a lot of those are going to get used and cut up into pieces. Even if they don't cover the blade at 100%, they will be right for cutting the size that I need. So that's what I did. I did a ton of that. I think I did like 4 hours of that. It is super boring. And then I ran them through my AccuQuilt for another 4 hours, also boring, but necessary. This is a quilt. Usually I like to cut a little, sew a little, cut a little, sew a little. But to be able to get the colors to progress and behave the way you want, you need to cut it all at once. You don't, if you want to have colors that are exactly like mine, like kind of evenly spread out, you do need to make sure you have kind of equal piles of everything. With this quilt, I'm not doing that. I'm not looking for a perfect rainbow. I'm looking to take what I've got and organize it in a rainbow. So it may have, I can tell you, there's probably not going to be a lot of yellow in this, although I do have one big, huge piece of yellow yardage. I'm not going to cut all of it. But I'm going to have more purples, for instance, and than any other color, and that's fine. I'm fine with a lot of purple. I can do my huge purple middle fading out, or I can do purple on both ends going to the middle, because the thing I like about the color wheel is it's a wheel and I can go around and around however I need it to. So that is your job this week. Gather up your fabric scraps that you want to use and start deciding what's big enough to make these pieces and what's not big enough. If you have a lot of energy and ambition, which I can tell you I do not have right now, you could certainly gather up all your littler. See this one? I would say this is purple. There's quite a bit of yellow in it, but I would cut this as purple. I would sort it with the purple. I could piece all my purple things together that are too small and make fabric and then cut that up too. That's definitely a fantastic way to use up crumbs and stuff. I don't know if I'm going to get there this time. Maybe someday in the future, maybe not. I have a lot of projects I want to do. But so gather up your scraps and cut them. You're going to need, if you're going to want to make a, you know, the throw that I made, the first throw I did was 60 by 72, which is a really nice, generous size for laying on the sofa. I think that one was 540 rectangles. It's a lot. And which is why when I told my boss I wanted to teach the class at Gotham, she said, nobody's going to want to pre-cut all those rectangles for a class. Fair, fair. But if you want to figure, you know, if you want my guidance with the technique, you're going to need to pre-cut them all. Do it this week, get it over with, and then we can have fun next week. This week will be the most difficult part of the whole quilt. Is just, for me, digging in and cutting all the pieces out. Unfortunately for you, I didn't think about making up kits. Like I think I'm going to end up making starter kits with some pre-cut shapes. I don't have those yet, and I won't for a while. I'm going to have to blast through this whole bin, cut everything, see what I've got, and start sorting. And then I'll be able to have little rainbow starter packs. But I don't have that now. And I'm not even going to promise that I'm going to get that this year. I would love to. I'd love to go through my stash and help and bust my stash up. But not right now. So what I have right now, I have these guys that are sorted. And you can see I've got pieces that are irregular shapes because, sorry, CJ's on the camera. I like curved piecing, so I did some curved piecing, and when I get bored, I just put the piece in there, which makes it hard. So I will cut, you know, what I can out of this. I've got other things where I was clearly doing appliques. So just, I use as much as I can of the big pieces and set the small pieces aside. But I have a lot that have been pressed. I press them all. I always press before going through my AccuQuilt. It just, sending a wrinkled one just doesn't give you a rectangle. It gets all weird. If you need to starch, I know everybody, you know, best press and soak and flatter, I don't know, soak is not one. Best press and flatter are great. If, like me, you shop at the supermarket more than at the craft store, I use Niagara spray starch. This is my favorite one. It says Luxe, because I'm a fancy girl. I like this one. It actually says, it makes it smoother. I've used the other kind when I go to the store and they don't have this one. I use the normal one. This is my favorite. Sometimes I'll give the fabric a little spritz. Batik, I don't really need that, but if I was using something like this old, this is too small obviously, but you know, something really soft, I would definitely give this a little spritz as I was going around. And this is something like the old quilters like me, we can argue about starch, no starch, till the cows come home. I starch. You do what you want to do. I'm not going to give you a hard time. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to gather our scraps and cut our rectangles. Just be aware that no matter how many scraps you cut out of your bin's never going to get empty. This quilt is not going to use up all your scraps unless you're a newbie. It's fine. If you don't have enough colors, if you're new or you're one of those quilters with control and you need more colors, Gotham Quilts, who I work for, I won't be making a commission on this, they're just my pals, they sell a scrap pack. When they cut fabric for bolts, you always end up with what we call bolt ends, which is, you know, pieces of fabric that are narrower than a fat quarter, but wider than like 2 inches. So too good to throw out because it's nice fabric. They gather those up and stuff them into a bag and ship them off. And I've sat with them and sorted, and we usually like, well, you know, they look nice together. It's not just a random assortment. Each little scrap pack, when you open it, will go together. So if you need scraps, that's a great place to get them, and you're helping my friends. And I think they're probably 10 or 25% off now because they're getting ready to close the brick and mortar space. They're going to be available online still, but they're closing and they're trying to empty out things. So it would be really helpful, good karma, to take some scraps off their hands if you don't have enough. So that's what's in store. I want to do some giveaways. I'm going to see if I can reach out to some sponsors. I'm not going to make any big promises, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I would love it if you're participating, if you would go buy the pattern. It's in my Etsy shop. I have, right now, the only giveaway I have right now is this Cricut Express Mini. And I should have the one that I use up here, but I think it's downstairs. I was at a retreat. Some of my stuff is up here, some of it's downstairs. But it is super adorable. It's this big. This is like real life size, and it's a tiny little iron. It's not great if you're going to be working for a long time, but it is fun if you're at the machine and you want to stitch. But I'm going to give this guy away. But I just have to figure out how. And I think that is all that I had to share with you. So if you have any questions, let me know. I am going to put all of the information in my newsletter if you want to sign up for reminders and get that in your inbox. And if you get my newsletter and you don't want those reminders, just delete it. Sorry, I'm going to post every week for the next 7 weeks, which I know is wildly out of character for my periodic newsletters that are supposed to come monthly, but come like every 3 months when I remember that I haven't written one in forever. So you always get the authentic Jen experience with me. But that's all for today. Just gather your fabrics and start cutting rectangles. I am going to put on my blog post. I'm going to figure out how to make a little social media graphic that says I'm in for the thing, and you can post that on social media if you want. And it's just fun to know who else is doing stuff, and it helps me. I love selling patterns. It's so fun. Every time you guys have bought one, my little phone goes ka-ching because the Etsy thing rings, and it's a huge dopamine burst, and I get very excited. So when you buy stuff from Etsy, there's little businesses at the other end who are just delighted with a sale. So thanks for the support, and let's get stitching. Well, let's get cutting. We'll do stitching next week. Talk to you later. Bye.